And to the analysis of Shields and Brooks, that syndicated columnist Mark Shields and New York Times columnist David Brooks. It's good to have you back with us, gentlemen.
Thank you, Judy.
So we just heard that report about jobs in Indiana. Let's talk about what the president has been out there saying this week, beating the drums. He's almost given up on talking about the jobs bill as a whole, but Mark, he's out there talking about pieces of what he wants to do, helping people with underwater mortgages, student loans. Is this a productive line for him to pursue?
I think it's. I don't think there are many alternatives at this point, Judy. It's obviously not going to make any headway in Congress, and so I think this administration, you could divide it really into three sort of separate, distinct chapters. The first 2 years were the big initiatives: the health care, the TARP, the auto bailout, stimulus package, and then the defeat in 2010, and followed by a year where the Republicans dominated the entire debate in terms of deficits and debt, and the president overestimated his own powers to negotiate bipartisan solutions and found himself plummeting in popular support. I think now we're in the final chapter of the first term, and he's about drawing differences and doing what he can with executive orders and simply without the involvement or consent of the Congress. Somebody said to me the other day that executive orders are like the drones of domestic policy, that a president can launch them himself without even consulting the Congress and get a specific task done.
Well, are these things, David, that can make a difference?
Not substantively. They're drones, but they just drop little caps, I guess you'd call them. There's a student loan thing, which will make some minimal difference. A couple of bucks a month for the average student in one analysis I wrote. There's an infrastructure thing, make a minimal difference. There's mortgage things, all very small, more symbolic to show that he's proposing things. The biggest one is happened a couple of weeks ago, which was a series of waivers issued by the Department of Education to No Child Left Behind. And those were more substantive to give states some more freedom. Very good. A lot of people think they were not constitutional. He overstepped his bounds. But mostly this is a way, as Mark says, of showing differences. Showing I'm doing some little things, but substantively not important.
But is it helping him politically, Mark? I mean, we are seeing some creeping up of his numbers in the approval.
Well, it certainly, I mean, it reversed what had been a really threatening trend for the president. I mean, his numbers had gone down, especially at the time of the August debt reduction fiasco. And I think it is, Judy. I think he's drawing the differences between the two parties. He has to if he's going into 2012. And it's quite frank obvious that he has not, thus far in his administration, defined who he is and what he stands for, and he's trying to do that now.
Yeah, I'd only say is to draw the distinction correctly. If it's just going to be a straight liberal versus conservative race, he's going to lose that race. The country has moved to the right. And the effects, the 2010 poll, that's where the electorate is right now. And so he can show he's for activism, but he can't just be people versus the powerful. He can't run the sort of Al Gore, John Kerry campaign, because the electorate, even from those days, it's much more conservative than it was then.
You think that's what he's doing?
Well, I think they overestimate two things. The degree of his political skill, that he can just win this thing out just by sheer charisma. I think his staff overestimates that. And second, I think they overestimate their ability to distinguish themselves from a straight liberal. They think, oh, we've tackled Medicare, we've tackled a lot of things that made our liberal base unhappy. The country, a lot of the independent voters do not see this. His approval rating among independents, even true independents, is about 38%. That's just a terrible problem for him.
I disagree with David. I think that this is not a liberal conservative. I think it's basically a case of where you stand, on whose side you are. And there's no question right now, we've just seen it in the unveiling of the tax plans on the Republican side, all of which show a tilt to basically to those already well off. And the president, the only place where there's consensus in the public is on increasing taxes on the very wealthy, and that recognition that the income inequality that has seized the nation in the last 30 years, where we've seen the top 1% share of the income double There is a sense that the rules have been rigged in favor of those who are well off and against the middle class. And the question is, is the president convincing, and can he stay the course? I think that's been the problem in the past. He has not stayed the course on that course that he has struck out on.
But you're saying that he's trying to make that argument now?
No, I think that, yes, I think that has to be his division going into 2012. I disagree with David. I think the problem that Barack Obama has, having seen it most recently at a focus group in Cincinnati on Monday night, is people do not see him as a strong leader, and they do not see him as a tough negotiator. And time and again, they feel that he is caved. And so he can't afford politically to start one policy and then change again in September or next January. I mean, he just can't do that.
Yeah, I guess I would just say we've seen this before. We had Al Gore and John Kerry and George McGovern and Michael Dukakis running against the people of the powerful. Widening inequality, true, but they've run, just speaking politically, they've run on the grounds the game is rigged. Republicans have run on the grounds we're one economy, we all have to grow. Let's do what we can to unleash growth, to get back to the growing economy, where effort leads to reward. And historically, the Republicans tend to win that fight.
Well, David,
we have never had circumstances like we have now. I mean, it's tough to make a powerful versus the powerless at a time of widespread prosperity, as it certainly was in 2000, when by a margin of 2-1, people thought the country was headed in the right direction. We now have 15% of Americans who think the country is headed in the right direction. And so, I mean, this is an entirely different political environment than was the case in 2000 with Al Gore against George W. Bush.
Well, I want to ask you about the Republicans, too, but before I do, the so-called super committee, congressional super committee, David, their deadline is getting closer. We're not hearing anything particularly promising out of there. What do you think? Do you think
I've asked a number of people involved in the White House and in Congress, do you see much hope? And the short answer is no. And one leader on Capitol Hill told me the opposition is behaving like 9-year-olds, which doesn't suggest they're getting very far. So my supposition is that we won't have any big deal. We will go through the next year where there'll be no agreement, and the congressional people in the Pentagon and other government agencies are going to have to try to budget for 2013 with no knowledge of how much money is going to be there. And that's going to be very hard. I think it's going to be a shock to the system.
Are you hearing the same thing?
I am, and the only thing that could stand in the way of no deal are two things. One, Congress has had a job rating of 9% in the latest New York Times CBS poll. I mean, if there's a question of survival, if we don't come up with something, say the Congressman, we could all lose our jobs. Secondly, there's a real problem of the credit rating of the United States. We're going beyond just Standard & Poor's.
What the reaction would be if they don't reach an agreement. Well, let's double back now to the candidates we were talking about a minute ago. Rick Perry rolled out his flat tax plan this week. He also got some comments, some attention for the comments he made on the birther, whether the president was born in the United States. David, is Perry's flat tax plan now helping him being taken more seriously as a candidate?
I hope not. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, if you're going to have a plan, everybody fudges their numbers, but you got to be within the universe of reality. And so in his flat tax, he's going to reduce revenue over a decade by trillions of dollars. He says he's going to balance the budget. He's not going to touch defense. It just doesn't make sense. It's like he's not even putting together a plan. He's just got some wild idea he's going to throw together that seem popular. And so, you know, he's had a lot of bad weeks. I would regard this as his worst week with this plan, which is not serious, and then stepping all over it with these comments about Obama being born abroad and all that stuff.
I agree totally with David. I want to identify.
You just identify with his remarks.
Right? And I'd simply say that the person I felt most sorry for were the people in Rick Perry's campaign this week as they're rolling out this plan, which is I think basically a flawed plan that they've been saying was going to be the Holy Grail and restore him to his pristine position of prominence. He talks about Donald Trump, the landlord reality show host, who's an authority on birth certificates. I mean, it was absolutely Looney Tunes.
Who later said that he thought the conversation with Governor Perry was private. And
sure. Well, if that's what they're talking about in private, boy, this one you're glad you know we're involved in.
So, Mark, you said you were in Ohio this week. It happened to be the scene of Governor Mitt Romney taking a position on collective bargaining for public workers, he seemed to be in a position that Republicans were surprised at, and then changing his mind about it. What?
You put your finger on it, Judy. I mean, the first question is, why was Mitt Romney in Ohio? Ohio does not have a primary until June. So why does he go to Cincinnati and to a phone bank, which is making calls for Governor John Kasich's doomed legislation to
phone bank being different from a phone booth, which is
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Where calls are being made to drum up support for the governor's program. On the day that Romney arrived, the public polls showed it was 21 points behind and sinking the governor's position, which would curtail the rights of collective bargaining for public workers. The firefighters are thumping the Republicans, is what it turns out. So Mitt Romney comes in, goes to the phone bank and says, no, I'm not going to take a position on what you're phoning about. And then he gets beaten around the head and shoulders by all sorts of conservatives for whom this is a very important issue. So the next day in Virginia, he endorses the Ohio plan. This is Mitt Romney's Achilles heel. This is what he can't afford to do, is to back off, to pander, to hesitate and to and fro and flip and flop. And it was just a bad week. The only thing that saved him was that Rick Perry was having a worse week.
Do you think there's a deeper explanation for what Romney did?
Well, two things. One, every hesitancy mistake now looks like a character flaw for him, because it looks like flip-flopping because of the history. And the second thing, I would say the deeper intellectual problem is that Republicans all agree we have to cut spending, but they have not yet set out a level of principles by which we should cut and by which we should not cut. And therefore, they have a no enemies on the right strategy where it's hard for them to say no to anybody, and he's sort of muddled because of that.
Well, the last candidate I want to talk about is Herman Cain, who got a lot of buzz this week over an internet ad, and we're going to show the viewers this little spot and just a portion of it, and we're going to talk about it. Here it is.
We need you to get involved, because together we can do this. We can take this country back.
It's different.
Yeah, my heart melts for that smile. I just, I like it. You know, everybody's going crazy. Oh, it's terrible. First of all, that guy, Mark Block, I went into journalism to hang around guys like that. I thought it'd be fun to hang around ne'er-do-wells.
We should say
like
he's a strategist for
for Cain. And you know, I don't mind the smoking. I like film noir. Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall smoked a lot. I think it's fine, but people are going crazy about it.
I couldn't agree more. I have to say that I'm so tired of the formula political ad. The candidate with the jacket over the shoulder, the two beautiful kids and the dog walking into the sunset, you know, with jaw jutting.
This is the opposite.
This is the opposite. This is totally, it's authentic, it's natural, it's non-formulaic, and it's completely consistent with Herman Cain's absolutely eccentric campaign. And authentic and eccentric, I'd say that those are the two adjectives.
The cigarette smoking, we don't see that very often.
People smoke cigarettes.
They do.
You know, they do. I mean, we don't kind of deny it, I guess, in public buildings, but people do.
And you mentioned Mitt Romney in Ohio. Herman Cain is campaigning all over the country. He's
leading in the latest Ohio poll, too, which may have counted for Mitt Romney's.
So maybe it's good to stay away from Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise that as a campaign strategy.
Right. Well, we don't want the two of you to stay away. Mark Shields, David Brooks, thank you both.